The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, it was absolute chaos.
Right. Picture this scene of, like, totally shattered trust.
Yeah.
Just a grueling 10-hour emotional bloodbath under these glaring studio lights.
And, a digital trail of leaked audio that has completely set the Bravo universe on fire.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And the stakes in this particular fallout are just incredibly high because we aren't looking at some standard run-of-the-mill reality television dispute here.
No, not at all. I mean, we're looking at a literal masterclass in psychological warfare.
Yeah.
It's fractured loyalties and really the devastating consequences of living out your most intimate betrayals in the public eye.
Which is exactly why we are dedicating this entire deep dive to the explosive fallout of the Summer House Season 10 reunion. Our mission today is to, really dissect that illegally leaked audio, the double betrayals, and the intense dynamics between West Wilson, Amanda Batula, Kyle Cooke, and Ciara Miller.
And we are pulling from a massive stack of sources to make sense of this for you guys. We've got reports from TMZ, Page 6, Reality Blurb, Us Weekly.
Plus some incredibly forensic fan theory breakdowns from the Snarkside podcast, which are wild.
Oh, they're doing the Lord's work over there.
Seriously. So let's unpack the timeline for you, because context is really the only way to decode this chaos. Back in January 2026, Kyle Cooke and Amanda Batula announced their separation.
Right, which is a massive deal. I mean, they had been married for 4 years, together for a decade.
Exactly. And then fast forward just a couple of months to late March, and Amanda and West Wilson drop a joint Instagram statement confirming their romance.
Which, I mean, that announcement represents a massive paradigm shift, because West isn't just a random guy cast on a show.
No, he's Kyle's best friend.
Right, he is Kyle's best friend, and he is also their castmate, Ciara Miller's ex.
It's so messy.
When you map out those relationship dynamics, the overlap isn't just messy, it's a structural collapse of the group's entire foundation.
And that structural collapse is what triggered the main event of this whole saga. Because hours after the Season 10 reunion wrapped, 2 minutes of completely unauthorized audio hit social media.
Just dropped right on the internet.
Yeah, and network executive Andy Cohen was absolutely fuming. He took to Threads, calling it, quote, disgusting and illegal to leak this after the cast had laid their souls out emotionally for 10 hours.
And it sparked this enormous internal investigation, right? Like,
Yep.
a production member was actually fired over it.
Yes, fired. But, it really makes you wonder about the why. Why would a producer risk their entire career to leak 2 minutes of audio?
I think it speaks to the sheer raw intensity of what happened in that room. When an environment reaches that level of toxicity and shock.
You just have to share it.
Yeah, the people behind the cameras are profoundly affected by it, too. In the reality TV ecosystem, information is currency.
Absolutely.
The producer likely felt the public needed to hear the unedited, unfiltered venom before the network could, sanitize it in the editing bay.
And when you listen to the audio, you honestly understand that instinct, because the tension is just suffocating.
Oh, it's so heavy.
Ciara Miller absolutely crucifies Amanda. She calls her a snake in the grass, arguing that Amanda moves, quote, silent but deadly.
Wow.
She even goes so far as to accuse Amanda of going from being married to Kyle to essentially being one of West's side B words.
I mean, the rawness of that moment is staggering. To hear a
Yeah.
long-standing female friendship implode with those specific words, it's so heavy.
It really is. And Amanda, she attempts to defend herself, but her defense mechanism is fascinating. She claims it was a lose-lose situation.
Right.
She argues that she isn't even being allowed to speak because Ciara just keeps interrupting her. And then, in a moment that just spectacularly misreads the room, Amanda jokes that she and Wes consulted ChatGPT to write their joint statement.
I could not believe she said that. She tries to diffuse the tension by following it up with a reminder that she's a comedian, but it backfires completely.
It fell so flat.
Because humor only works when there's a shared baseline of reality.
Yeah.
And in that room, the reality is completely fractured.
Exactly. And that's when Kyle Cooke chimes in to say Amanda's defense is an absolute, quote, word salad.
Which is when Ciara drops the undeniable receipts.
Oh, the text message.
Yes. She reveals that less than 24 hours before Amanda and Wes posted that joint statement confirming their relationship, Amanda texted Ciara saying, duh, we're just friends.
Oof. And that text just completely exposes the calculated deception. But I want to pivot to West's behavior in all of this. Because I like to think of West's persona as a Trojan horse.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Right. He uses this goofy golden retriever act. He's the fun guy, the harmless guy who wears vintage tees and cracks jokes.
Yeah, everybody loved him.
Exactly. He uses that boyish charm to sneak past everyone's defenses, but once he's inside the walls, the gates open, and it's absolute emotional chaos. He essentially weaponizes his nice guy brand to avoid accountability.
The Trojan horse is a brilliant way to frame it, especially when you contrast his actions with his public relations strategy.
Yeah.
Like, on his podcast, Show Me Something, West explicitly stated that he wanted to take the heat.
Oh, sure he did.
He went on a whole monologue about how his actions hurt people he cares about, and he wanted the criticism directed at him, not Amanda. He painted himself as the shield.
Right.
But in the room, under the studio lights, when the actual confrontation happens, he does nothing.
Utter silence. I mean, in all 3 leaked audio clips, Wes sits there like a statue while Amanda takes this brutal, relentless beatdown from her former best friend and her estranged husband.
He doesn't interject once, not a single time.
No. Which completely dismantles the whole nice guy narrative.
His silence wasn't just a failure to protect the person he just publicly claimed. I mean, to Kyle, it was a profound sign of disrespect and cowardice.
Oh, absolutely.
West wanted the credit for being a protector on his podcast, but he completely refused to pay the emotional toll required to actually protect her in person.
And Kyle Cooke did not let that slide. He took straight to Threads to publicly slam West, stating that West is, quote, all PR and zero intention or integrity.
Wow.
He went there.
He really did. Kyle explicitly pointed out that the reunion was a bloodbath, and he couldn't recall a single moment where West had Amanda's back. But wait till you hear what Kyle did next, because he didn't just stop at social media posts.
Oh, no.
He took this resentment straight to the club.
The transition from digital anger to real-world spectacle is where this story enters a whole new stratosphere. Because we really have to look at the psychological weight of what TMZ reported as the double betrayal.
A double betrayal.
Yeah, Kyle wasn't just dealing with the very public loss of his wife of 4 years. He was completely blindsided by West, who, again, was his closest confidant in the house.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate destruction of the bro code.
Exactly. And Kyle claims he gave them every opportunity to be honest. Like, according to reports, he asked them multiple times directly to their faces if they were dating.
And they repeatedly denied it.
Over and over. So you have a man who is grieving his marriage, grieving his best friend, and dealing with the sheer humiliation of realizing everyone else might have known before he did.
It's a recipe for a massive public eruption.
Which brings us to Soft Bar in New York City. The way Kyle chooses to process this grief is just, it's highly aggressive and deeply performative.
It really is. It's such a cinematic scene. Picture it. The club is packed. Kyle Cooke is behind the DJ booth, bathed in these pulsing lights, and he plays a custom diss track aimed directly at West.
A reality TV star dropping a diss track is almost too perfect.
I know. The track literally echoes through the club saying, "Is West there? Tell him he's a piece of sword."
Oh my gosh.
It explicitly calls out his fake little charm, claiming West walked in, acting like the golden boy, but secretly hooked up with Amanda. The lyrics even say he loves the spotlight, but plays the victim when accountability comes knocking.
Choosing a diss track rather than like a standard press release or a podcast interview is such a fascinating choice.
Yeah, it really allows Kyle to reclaim control over a narrative where he felt entirely powerless. It turns his private humiliation into this empowering public spectacle.
Totally.
He also used the momentum of that moment to clarify a point of confusion from the leaked audio. In the leak, Kyle is heard calling someone a schmuck. He went out of his way to clarify online that the insult was directed entirely at West, not Amanda.
He's making sure the battle lines are perfectly drawn. And by the way, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and the psychology behind them, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead in this deep dive, including a massive timeline discrepancy.
Well, the timeline.
Because while Kyle is spinning tracks in New York, the internet sleuths over at the Snarkside podcast have been treating this like a literal true crime investigation.
They really have.
They are questioning the entire sequence of events, specifically leaning into what they are calling the Miami timeline theory.
The timeline sleuthing is where the narrative completely fractures. I mean, the fans are looking at the data, and the data simply does not support West's claims.
What are they finding?
Well, the theory alleges that the group was in Miami together in February, and during that trip, Amanda and West were having these intimate one-on-one brunches intentionally separating themselves from Kyle and the rest of the group.
Okay, let's map this out slowly for everyone because the math is where the big aha moment happens. Let's put a pin in February.
Right.
If Amanda and West are having secret romantic brunches in Miami in February, we have a massive overlap conflict because Page 6 reported that West and Ciara hooked up in mid to late February. Then, to make things even more complicated, castmate Jesse Solomon goes on Watch What Happens Live and tells Andy Cohen that he saw Amanda and West together at a bar on February 28th.
Yeah, and Jesse says he specifically asked Amanda if they were hooking up, and she denied it to his face, saying West is just, quote, her boy.
When you look at those dates side by side, the cognitive dissonance is just glaring.
It's impossible. If West is hooking up with Ciara in late February, while simultaneously having secret brunches with Amanda in Miami, and then being spotted with Amanda at a bar on February 28th.
The math ain't mathin'.
Exactly. The mathematical impossibility of his podcast claims becomes undeniable. West insisted that everyone was single and there was no overlap, but the dates suggest he was actively triangulating two women in the exact same friend group.
It is so messy. But I have to push back a little on Kyle's narrative here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because is Kyle Cooke truly a heartbroken, blindsided husband reeling from a double betrayal? Or is he just loving the spotlight and capitalizing on the fact that his DJ gigs are suddenly making headline news?
That's fair.
I mean, dropping a diss track in a packed club feels very calculated for someone who claims to be utterly devastated.
That's a crucial distinction to make. We really have to consider his massive ego. Kyle is navigating a very public divorce on television, and he knows how to play the reality TV game better than almost anyone.
Right.
However, balancing that performative ego are his genuine quotes regarding Amanda. Like, in interviews, he expressed deep concern for her fragile mental health.
Yeah, he did say that.
He said he's been caring for her for 10 years and bluntly stated he doesn't think West is in a place to offer her the stability she needs. So, human emotion is complex. It can be both.
That's true.
He can be capitalizing on the drama to boost his DJ sets while simultaneously mourning the genuine loss of his marriage and his best friend.
That dual reality is something we see so often in pop culture. But later in the deep dive, we're going to talk about the shocking psychological twist nobody saw coming and how one specific beach hug changes our entire understanding of the summer.
The psychology of how these cast members interact on camera versus off camera is where the real darkness lies in this story.
Wow, 100%.
The Snarkside podcast introduced a concept regarding these interactions that completely reframes the entire season.
Yes, the concept of covert betrayal. When I read their breakdown of this, it completely blew my mind. It explains so much about human behavior that we see every day, not just on television.
Covert betrayal is a fascinating psychological mechanism. It basically happens when the betrayer uses overly affirming, deeply empathetic language toward their victim to overcompensate for their own internal guilt.
Wow.
They mask their deception with a suffocating level of emotional support.
So let's apply that to the interactions between Amanda and Ciara. There is this incredibly eerie scene during the season where Amanda is sitting on a bed with Ciara.
Right, I remember that.
And Ciara is just crying her eyes out over West. And Amanda is stroking Ciara's hair, looking her dead in the eyes and telling her she is loved and deserves the utmost respect. She is playing the role of the fierce, protective best friend to absolute perfection.
But underneath that performance, she is harboring a secret attraction to West, and possibly already acting on it depending on which timeline you actually believe.
Which is wild. So why act as the ultimate protector?
Amanda is trying to soothe her own cognitive dissonance. By providing intense emotional support, she's laying the groundwork to destroy a friendship while desperately trying to convince herself she's still a deeply good, empathetic person.
It's self-preservation.
Exactly. She is managing her guilt by performing loyalty.
It is chilling when you frame it that way. It's essentially an emotional counterfeit. And West uses his own manipulative tactics that follow a very similar pattern. Look at how he operates off-camera versus on-camera. He breaks his silence on his podcast, claiming there was absolutely no overlap. He says he sent texts trying to apologize, but Ciara cut them both off, so his texts are just going unanswered.
He frames himself to the public as the wounded guy just trying to make amends.
Exactly. But when you compare those podcast claims to the actions captured by the production crew, the narrative falls apart.
Oh, completely. Take the dog charity event in the city. Amanda pulls West aside to publicly scold him for how he treated Ciara.
Yeah.
From a PR perspective, it looks like Amanda's taking a stand. She's defending her friend. But the underlying body language tells a completely different story.
Exactly, because how does that scene end? With an electric, lingering kiss on the cheek that lasts entirely too long?
Way too long.
It was absolutely not platonic. You don't kiss someone like that if you were genuinely furious with them for hurting your best friend.
The contradiction between the words spoken and the physical reality is glaring. And then we have the infamous beach scene, which might just be the most manipulative moment of the entire season.
I can't even watch that scene.
West and Ciara are talking. Ciara is incredibly vulnerable, unpacking the emotional baggage and the trust issues of the last 2 years. And what does West do? He doesn't offer a genuine apology.
Yep.
He uses Amanda's exact words. He looks at Ciara, lowers his voice, and softly says, "I see you more."
He weaponizes therapy speak. He uses that exact phrase to completely emotionally disarm her. And it works.
It works perfectly.
Ciara breaks down crying, and they share this agonizingly long, tight hug on the beach, which, raises an incredibly important question for you to consider as a listener. If the reality TV cameras weren't there, would these people even be speaking to each other?
I think we both know the answer is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
In the real world, someone in Ciara's position who has been lied to, embarrassed, and triangulated would just block his number, restrict his social media, and never cross paths with him again.
Without a doubt.
But the artificial environment of a reality TV sharehouse acts as an emotional pressure cooker. It forces these unnatural, traumatic reconciliations. They have to find a way to peacefully coexist or at least interact on camera just to secure their contracts for the next season. The cameras completely manufactured that hug.
They're essentially contractual hostages. We are watching people endure real, palpable psychological trauma for our entertainment. It is fascinating, but it's also deeply unsettling.
Very.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next as we continue to track this fallout. Because as if this story couldn't get any more twisted, we have the final clue that brings us right back to where we started.
The ultimate bombshell that proves the drama might just be the glue holding them together.
According to a Page 6 eyewitness, after that brutal 10-hour reunion taping,
The same one.
the exact same taping where the audio leaked, where Amanda was crucified and called a snake while West sat in complete silence, Amanda and West were seen leaving the New York City venue together in the exact same car.
Which is a profound statement. It proves that despite the immense public backlash, despite the diss tracks echoing through New York clubs, and despite the permanently broken friendships, the trauma of the fallout is actually bonding them tighter together.
It's wild.
It's a staggering amount of information to process. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought that really builds on everything we've explored today.
Let's hear it.
Think about the production team sitting in the editing bays months before this all aired. If they knew about this secret romance the whole time, if they knew about the alleged Miami trip, the overlapping timelines, and the secret texts, then every lingering camera zoom on a cheek kiss and every hypocritical, comforting speech we saw on TV was a deliberate, calculated choice by the editors.
Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder. In the world of reality TV, when the cameras flash and the crowd freezes, just like we talked about at the beginning, who are the real masterminds manipulating the trauma? The cast acting out the scene, or the editors choosing exactly what we are allowed to see?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.